Hey everyone, and I'm here with Seattle-based Kendra Long, a leading personal injury attorney, and our special guest who helps injured women get justice when they've been hurt through no fault of their own. And today we're talking about some of the things insurance companies say that can completely derail your personal injury case or claim. Good to have you on again, Kendra.
Hi, thanks for having me again. It's nice to see you.
And now, before we get started, I just want to say to our listeners, if you've had an accident or you just need some questions answered right now, just go to injuredwomen.com and you'll get a free assessment, some immediate next steps, and above all, peace of mind. Now, so I just want to kick off, Kendra, and talk about this thing you were saying before the show about how insurance companies, let's not say they lie, but let's just say they're not really sharing the whole truth when they're talking to you.
It's true. They do not share the whole truth, and they're not your friend. Their job is to make their company money and save their company money. So they're not going to do you any favors.
I think everyone's on the same team on that one. So one of the things you said to me, they've got this famous saying, oh, if you don't give me this information, I'm going to have to close your file.
I hear it all the time. I'm going to close your file. I'm going to close your file. They'll also say it in context of, I haven't heard from you in a while, or I haven't had an update from you in a while, so I'm going to close your file. And so they do this to pressure you into finishing treatment or settling your case because you think they're going to close your file, or pressure you into calling them back because you don't have a duty to communicate with a third-party insurance company. You don't have to call them back. So whenever you don't, they have these little tricks that they're just trying to get you to call them back, trying to get you to talk to them. And one of them is, there is no such thing as closing your file. Like, they don't get to do that. The law determines.
I think it's huge what you're saying there. Sorry to interrupt you, but I just think people, they have this thing with authority where we feel that we have to comply with certain things. And if someone from a big company says, well, if you don't do something like this, it's going to completely trash your case, or we're going to have to close you down, or we feel intimidated by that.
Exactly. And you're like, oh my God, close my file. I'm not going to have a case. Like, you don't understand what that actually means. Closing your file, it just means that they kind of put it in the computer. And I've reopened, cases before where they've said that they've closed the file. It's just a matter of calling them back and say, I want to reopen my file. Like, there's no long process. It's not scary. It doesn't negatively impact your claim. What dictates your claim is the statute of limitations, which in Washington is 3 years.
Okay, right. So another thing you've heard them say is that you have to sign a medical release. Right. So just explain why they do that and what that means.
So your medical records are protected under the law. So in order to have access to your medical records, you have to sign a medical release authorizing them to contact your doctors and to get your medical records. They want to do this. So I will say that with your own insurance company, if you want them to pay your bills under your personal injury protection or PIP policy, you do have to sign a medical release because they're paying those bills. But the other person's insurance company does not have any right to your medical records at this time. So they'll say you have to sign this medical release, and it's because they want to get all your medical records. Like, they want to look at records from 10 years ago so that they can see, oh my God, in 2016, she said that her low back hurt. And yeah, maybe your low back hurt because you were pregnant or whatever,
Yeah,
but,
sure. Yeah.
but they're using it as like, oh, she had pre-existing low back pain. Note that in the computer. So they just get them to build a case against you and to try to discredit you or to minimize your injuries.
Fascinating. Now, in terms of talking to insurance companies, one of the things you were saying to me is they record all calls, right?
Everything is recorded. So when I take on a new client, the first thing I do is contact the insurance companies and request that they send me every single recording, like every phone call my clients made to them. I want that recording. So when you call the insurance company, the first thing that happens, the line picks up. It says, this call is monitored or recorded for quality assurance purposes. People people don't realize that the recording of their call starts at that very moment. So even though you're making your way through the phone tree, even though you're on hold, that call is still being recorded. So your background conversation with your children or your spouse or your friend, that is all part of that recorded call, not just the things that you are directly saying to the insurance, the agent when you're actually speaking with them. So
something to be aware of. And they, as much as possible, want to ask you questions, again, which I think, they're doing on purpose because they know it's being recorded. And I think, like Kendra said, you don't want to be answering questions from the other parties, the insurance company, if you can help it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. They want you to commit before you have representation, because once you've committed on a recorded line, it's really hard to go back and amend or say, I was confused by your question, or they really want a detailed summary of all of your injuries. So it's like, okay, so you said your neck hurt. Now let's talk about your back. What about your upper back? What about your mid back? What about your low back? And sometimes you don't really know one part hurts until, some time has passed and it's just not gone back to normal.
But they're doing it in a way that this is the sort of deceitful part of it, I suppose, which is they're making themselves sound like they care about you and they want to know more about your injuries so they can help you, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's not. It's to get you to commit to those injuries so that you later can't really add more to them, or that, they're just trying to get you to commit because you don't understand your legal rights at this point.
It might not add up with your medical treatment, or, well, why didn't you get that treated? You said this was hurting and now you didn't get it treated. And
exactly. So it's like, okay, well, you told me that your low back hurt, but when you went to the doctor the day after the accident, I see here that you didn't mention your low back at all. So why does your low back hurt now? Like, it's just to discredit you. It's just another tactic.
Absolutely. I mean, you can't say anything right for saying something wrong. Okay?
Exactly.
So
yeah.
Okay. And what was this thing about diminished value? You were mentioning we don't pay diminished value or something like that. Just explain that to our listeners.
So diminished value, when your car has been in an accident and let's say it's been repaired, okay, your car is not worth the same, right? If you have to sell that car because now that car's been in an accident, people are not going to pay the same amount of money for that vehicle. So that is diminished value, the value that your car has lost after being in an accident. So they always say, well, we don't pay for diminished value, but it's crazy because they don't have a choice of whether to pay for diminished value. Like that's part of your claim, like because
it's not a policy decision.
It's not a decision of the insurance company because of their insurance negligence. Your car is now worth less because it was in an accident. Like that's their responsibility too. So I hear that one a lot come up, especially because a lot of people are dealing with property damage. Often before they hire me because it's a really immediate need to get your car fixed. So I hear that one a lot, but I assure you they pay for diminished value.
So to wrap up, what would you say the big takeaway for people that have been in an accident, they've got an insurance company calling them because they will call. What's the takeaway advice for our women listeners today?
You need to talk to an attorney before you talk to the insurance companies because
that way around.
It's the way to protect yourself because you don't know once you hire an attorney, the attorney talks to the insurance company, so you don't have to. But when you start talking to the insurance companies, it's just gonna they're just find ways to poke holes in everything that you say. You can't say anything right. Everything you say is going to be wrong. Even if they are giving you feedback that makes you believe that they're here to help me. They're not. So talk to an attorney before you start talking to the insurance company for sure.
Great advice. Simple but powerful, Kendra. If you've, again, like the advice today and you've had an accident or you've just got some questions, if you go to injuredwomen.com, you'll get some free advice, a free case assessment, and a plan of action. So you've got some immediate next steps. And I think that'll make you feel a whole lot better. Look, Kendra, thanks again.
Thank you.
Great to see you.
Yeah.
And have you back on soon.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Bye.